Keith, tell me about your first solo plane flight.
Well, that was interesting. I was a resident at the time in anesthesiology in Los Angeles, and I decided I wanted to take flying lessons. I went out and found an instructor, and I learned in an Aranca 90, which is a taildragger, and I think its top speed is probably about 40 miles an hour, but I'm not sure of that. And so I had 8 hours of flying experience, and we landed, my instructor and myself, and he said, "Get in the back seat, you're on your own." And I started down the runway, wondering in my mind what in the world I was doing. And as I went kind of putting around across the reservoir and down and around, I came back to the airstrip and landed. That was my first successful solo flight, and I knew absolutely nothing about what I was doing.
What was going on in your head when you were coming down to the runway?
You've got to be an idiot and you're going to die. But I held it together long enough to get on the ground. And
How many more flights did you have until you said that you're finished with flying?
oh, I went on for quite a few more hours actually. And one day I was out at the airfield shooting landings by myself, takeoff and landings. And I was just getting ready to take off, and nobody knows exactly what happened, whether there was something on the runway or if because you can't get the tail up that high on a Ronca to have the prop hit the runway, but my prop hit something and took about 8 inches off the prop. And I had enough sense to cut the engine and not take off. And so I taxied back over to the hangar where my instructor was, and he came walking out, and I took the keys and I handed them to him, and I said, "Thank you, it's been fun." And he said, "Oh no," he said, let's get in a 150 Cessna, and we'll go up and do some hood flying and do a little instrument training." So we went up, and we were not 10 minutes in the air, I don't think, when the engine froze up and the prop stopped, and we're up in the air with no power. And of course she said, "Let me take over," and I said, "Yes, I hope so." And so we kind of circled around with no power, couldn't get the engine started again. Got about 100 feet above the runway, and the prop came back on, and we circled around and landed, and then I handed him the keys for good.
So this was the same exact day that you had your first solo
Same day
flight?
as I'd hit something on the runway, probably, and taken off my prop. So I thought that was probably a sign from God saying, "You better stay on the ground, boy." So